1, 2, 3, 4. Those are numbers, but you already knew that. If you want to know what number you're going to pay each month for your car, use Kelley Blue Book My Wallet on Auto Trader. They're really good at numbers. Auto Trader.
Are we going to be goofing off like this every day?
We're not goofing off. We're creating musical fusion.
Well, are we going to be creating musical fusion every day?
Yeah, get used to it.
And hello, welcome to Unequal Sequel. My name is Dave. I'm one of the two hosts of this humdinger of a podcast.
And I'm Rich, and I'm the other host of this humdinger of a podcast. Think of me as Obi-Wan to Dave's Anakin Skywalker. I'm the bearded Jedi Master, and he's slowly drifting to the dark side.
Yep. The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, worst ever sequel, and finally their dream sequel.
And of course, we often drift off and talk about other things, not just movies, but all sorts of things in life in general, really.
We should also point out we do love dropping big spoilers. So if we mention a film that you haven't seen and you don't want spoiled, go play your favourite album. You know, just put it on for a few minutes, enjoy it, then come back. And we'll be back. Because in today's episode, we are joined by Harley Mumford.
Harley is a wonderful podcaster. He is the man responsible for the Fandomentals podcast, which me and Dave have both been lucky enough to be guests on. He's a brilliant guy, and I know you're really going to enjoy this episode.
Yeah, we were very excited to sit down with Harley and speak all things sequels with him.
These are Harley Mumford's Unequal Sequels. Enjoy!
Harley, do you remember the first sequel you saw, or a sequel you've got really excited about before release?
Oh, that's a really good question. For me, can I cheat and have two as an answer? Because they're kind of close together. So for me, the two that stand out that I remember being really excited for, it would be Spider-Man 2 and Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, I think would be the two. I know they're quite close together. I think they're within a year of each other, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I remember those two very vividly because they were the two biggest things in my life at that time, you know, Spider-Man and Star Wars. And yeah, I remember just getting really excited for both of those. And it was sort of at that time when you just had a lot of extra stuff as well around you. You had the video games, you had all the toys and the novelizations, all of that stuff. I just remember just really delving into it and just being extremely excited when the movies came out.
Yeah. Were you first day showings kind of guy?
Probably not at that age. I don't think I would have had the pull over my parents. I think it was just like you go when you go kind of.
Yeah.
But actually saying that, I think with Revenge of the Sith, I remember it being a packed out cinema, and I think my dad, bless him, I think he made the effort to go on the opening weekends and took me along. I think he'd already seen it ahead of time actually, because I think it was the first Star Wars. It was a 12, wasn't it?
It's pretty dark. Yeah.
It's quite dark. Yeah.
Even though my dad was like, I'm sure it'll be fine. I think he's a responsible parent and thought I'll go ahead just to sort of double check because I was quite young at the time. And yeah, he was like, yeah, this will be fine. And then I saw a man in flames at the end of a movie screaming and was like, oh, this is fine, I guess.
Rich showed it to his 6-year-old the other day, so...
Hey, whoa.
Is he 7 now?
He's 7 now.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, to be fair as well, like I saw Spider-Man 2 the year before, and that has a scene where like robot arms come alive and just attack a load of people. And, you know, so yeah, there's a lot of terrifying stuff in kids' films when you sort of look back at it.
It's
fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm not emotionally scarred. It's fine. It's all good.
Sure.
So how old were you when you went to see
feel
those?
old.
Just out of interest, because me and Dave were at university, so.
So I was born in 94, so I probably would have been just over 10. So
wow.
Yeah,
we're old.
Sorry.
I remember not going to see Revenge of the Sith early. I think I was went to see it quite late on. I think I was about 3 people in the cinema when I went to watch it.
Really, that late on?
Were you burned out then?
Yeah.
You burned out by the previous 2?
Burned out by the previous 2. I think we were really busy. We were in a really busy like project time at uni. I can't remember.
Okay.
And I think it just all got pushed back. And yeah, I just remember going to see it in a pretty much empty.
Was it in
cinema.
Cheltenham, Rich, when you saw it?
Yeah, it was in Cheltenham. Yeah.
Ah, not far from me. Okay,
I remember
cool.
seeing Spider-Man 2 at a midnight screening because I worked at a bowling alley at this time, and the cinema was above us, and they let us go to their where they played the films at 12 o'clock at night to check the reels. So we gave them free bowling, and they let us come to these free films. So 12 o'clock midnight, It was awesome. Like 2 weeks before it came out as well. So Spider-Man 2, I was like bigging it up for like 2 weeks. I was like, it is great, guys. You're going to love it. It's so much better than the first.
That's really cool. That's a pretty sweet deal. I like that.
I saw a lot of early films that way. I saw 8 Mile.
Okay.
Two Towers. I watched at 12 o'clock at night, and then I went back the next day when it got released and saw it at the first screen at 10 o'clock.
Whoa.
X-Men 2 I saw. That was a good one. A bad one I saw was Bulletproof Monk. That was not worth staying up until like 3 a.m. to watch. It is terrible, Harley.
It's bad.
Okay.
It's very bad.
It's truly awful. Oh, God, I hate that film. So how are your feelings of those two films now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, looking back, I love both of them. I mean, the Spider-Man 2 in particular is a classic. I think everybody looks back at it now quite favourably. It's a funny one because I rewatched all of the Spider-Man films last year with my wife, and we were watching it, and I was just thinking, like, this is quite deep for a superhero film. It's almost like an existential drama that just happens to have Spider-Man in it.
Yeah.
You know, like it deals with themes of identity and, you know, and the fact that he has the moment, what was it? The famous Spider-Man line, Spider-Man No More, you know, that comic book run. It's quite bold for a filmmaker to do that in a superhero movie. You know, you can imagine there might have been a bit of pushback, but it's great, you know, and of course when Doc Ock turned up in No Way Home, I was just thrilled to bits, you know. It was sort of just, maybe sort of relive that whole thing all over again.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Dare I ask about Star Wars? Because you're that age that the prequels are good and people enjoy them.
Yeah. So for me, you're absolutely right, Dave. I'm a child of the prequels. You know, one of my first cinema experiences, I'm sure, was Phantom Menace. I remember seeing that, and while I imagine there were many people like yourselves coming out of the cinema thinking, "What was that? I'm so confused." I was, you know, running around doing cartwheels and just, you know, being like, "Oh, it's so good. Jar Jar Binks is hilarious." You know, and just I was a kid. I was having a great time, and same with Attack of the Clones, and by the time you get to Revenge of the Sith, like, I really enjoyed it, and I still do. You know, it's funny, again, I did a rewatch of the Star Wars films in lockdown, and I have a fondness for them. I can see they're technically not the best, and there's definitely a lot of problems with them. But the third one in particular, I think it definitely stands above the other two, and it's, to sort of shamelessly plug my own podcast for 2 seconds, I recently did a Star Wars episode, and previous guest of my show and your show, Jordan King, he brought out in the show, and I put it in the podcast, that he loves that movie. It's his favorite one. And just all the things he said about it I thought were really nice, that it's kind of like this, almost like a Shakespearean, like, epic drama. It has the most amount of drama out of all of the films. It has the most amount of action as well. And the thing with both of those movies, I got them on the DVD and I rewatched them endlessly. It was sort of when you had all the bonus stuff as well, and I used to comb through all of it. And episode 3 stands out to me actually as having one of those documentaries that really got me interested in filmmaking and helped me to appreciate how much work goes into it. So I'm sure people listening, you can probably find this on YouTube. It might even be on Disney Plus now, but it was on the DVD when I had it. There was this behind the scenes documentary. I think it was called Within a Minute or something like that. And essentially it is basically, as the title suggests, they took a minute of the film. I think it was the final duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan. And it showed you how much work went into that 1 minute of footage. And it was incredible. I remember as a kid watching that and going, oh, wow, I had no idea that there was all of this. You know, there's the choreography, there's the set design, there's people that do hair and makeup and dress, and there's even like catering, sound effects, music, all this stuff that goes into just making a minute of film. And it's sort of, I definitely look at that and that whole experience and that film and all of that stuff as something that really opened my eyes up to cinema a lot more.
The Star Wars extras are awesome. The Phantom Menace making of are still a highlight to me, because there's points where George Lucas is like, if we get Jar Jar right, this is going to be crazy good.
Doesn't he say, I think quite famously in that he was saying about how you can go too far and he doesn't want to go too far, and then there's a minute after watching it where he goes, I may have gone too far. And it's on film, and it's like, it's so great.
They're worth
so have we made him a hideous racial stereotype? Oh no!
It's too late. It's coming out in 3 weeks.
You know what? I think it's going full circle, Jar Jar. I think he's getting people accepting him a lot more now than there was a time when he took the whole flack, basically. That poor actor, Ahmed Best, took the whole flack for Phantom Menace. And that's unfair because he's not the worst thing in it. I don't think he's not the only reason. No. He does what he got told to do. Harley, what is your best sequel ever?
So my best sequel ever is currently my favourite film, and it's one that's come up on this podcast a few times as a surprising sequel, which I completely agree with. It's Blade Runner 2049.
Nice choice.
I adore this movie. It's so good. It's so good. And it doesn't have the right to be either. It's where to begin? I mean, I'm curious, what are your guys' relationships with the Blade Runner franchise?
Look at you hosting. It's amazing.
It's muscle memory.
I think me and Rich slightly differ on this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like Blade Runner. I don't think there's anything. I can see why people get really excited about it, but it hasn't made the connection that it has to other people. Other like Blade Runner fans are very committed to Blade Runner. They love it, and you say a bad word to it, and they come after you. And they don't understand how do you not like it? It's it's so pretty and it was so ahead of its time. I'm like, yes, it was. I just think it's a bit of a drag sometimes. Now, Rich, on the other hand,
I love it. I love Blade Runner, but then I think maybe I saw it earlier than you did, and maybe it was. I think I was about 12 when I saw it.
Oh wow!
So yeah, it was
made a big impact.
I was really young. Yeah, I know. I loved it. I absolutely. It's the first time I think I'd seen something noir-y like that. I hadn't seen a dark, gritty kind of noir film like that before. And I just absolutely loved it to pieces. And then I got kind of slightly into kind of film noir and got my gran to take me to watch old black and white movies at the cinema. So that was really cool.
What version should I be watching, Harley? Because
it's got to be the final cut, really, the director's final. It's the best one. I mean, contrary to the Star Wars thing of going back and, adding and taking and ultimately just making an absolute mess of it, the Ridley Scott cuts do the opposite. He kind of cuts out a lot of the stuff that I think really would have hindered the original Blade Runner in cinemas, because I know it didn't do super well critically, and I can understand why, because it's one of those books. I know if you guys have ever, I'm assuming, Rich, you've read the book, have you?
No, I haven't, no.
You haven't?
Read the book, no.
Call yourself a fan.
I like the movie. I'm not going to read the book.
I know. I'd encourage it. Genuinely, the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is really solid. Philip K. Dick's an amazing writer, and so it's one of those though. It's a hard book to adapt. I think kind of like Dune. Dune is another example.
Yeah.
From the same filmmaker. There's so much to it. It's really dense, and you need someone like a Denis Villeneuve, for example, who gets the core of what the film's about, who understands what it is and adapts it. So when you're looking at the original, Ridley Scott understood, I think, the central themes of the book and sort of really focused in on that. And the final cut definitely has the best version of it, because it gets rid of the weird narration, which was a bit of a noir trope that I think they threw in because they thought, this might help people understand what's going on. But you don't need it. You don't. It's irrelevant. We get enough from context. We get enough from the way the characters behave. The acting does a lot of the heavy lifting. You just need to have confidence in it. And I think when he finally got around to doing that, I think it's 2007 that one came out. Yeah, all the right pieces come together. Sorry, it's a very long-winded way of saying, watch the final cut. It's the best one. It's the most accessible.
I think I agree with you.
What age were you when you first watched Blade Runner?
So I was really late to the game on this. So it was maybe 5 years ago. Big shout out to Skip to the End guys. Ben, who's on that show, is just a massive Blade Runner fan, and a lot of those films that guys talked about, I thought, I'll get around to watching this. And I knew it'd be up my street because I knew I liked AI, I liked science fiction. It's a huge genre for me. And so I just sat down and watched it one day, and I got the final cut, the DVD. I was blown away. I just thought, how have I not seen this sooner? This is phenomenal. This is everything that I love in science fiction, AI in particular, the whole meditation on what it means to be human and life, and the Tears in Rain speech and all this stuff. It's the kind of stuff
you can see. So how many films
have
taken from it as well?
Exactly. This was it. I was watching it as well. You're right. The score is incredible. The visual side of it, all of that. You look at it and you go, oh, I now know where every dystopian film ever has got its aesthetic from. They've just ripped this movie off shamelessly, and you're like, okay. And it's an incredible feat, because you look at it, this film came out in the 80s, it just, like so many films like then, like a Star Wars, I guess Terminator, Alien, all the big sci-fi hits of that time. They just had a look and a style, and they just set the bar,
High.
and everyone else just copied them
yeah.
since. Yeah. And so Blade Runner is one of those movies that, to your point, Dave, it's like it's become a cult classic. It's, has a die-hard fandom. There's so much stuff baked into this movie that when you then turn around and say, we're going to do a sequel 30 years later.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, okay. Are you sure? And I think at the time I was vaguely aware of Denis Villeneuve as a filmmaker. I think I'd seen like Prisoners and Sicario, and I was like, I really like this guy. I like what he's all about. And I thought, well, he doesn't strike me as the type to just do a sequel for the sake of doing it. And it's not a cash grab because, well,
it wasn't any cash the first time.
Exactly. It's like, this must be a passion project. So he must have some idea of what he wants to do with it. So I went into the cinema just kind of open-minded and like, okay, we'll see what's going to happen. I wasn't expecting it to be better than the original because I thought it's hard to beat. And it's been, as I said, re-edited and redone so many times. It's like, yeah, you got an uphill battle here. But I'm not exaggerating when I say that within the first 10 minutes, I was fully on board. I was just sold. And I just thought, I think this might be as good as the original. I don't know. And it just kept getting better and better. And by the end of the 2 hours, I was just in awe of what I'd just seen and was like, not only do I think, and people might think this is controversial, but not only do I think that was better than the original, it might be my favorite film. I had to sit and think about it for ages, and then it came out and I just got it. And it's one of those films I watch it every year.
It's beautiful.
It's stunning. It's so good.
You're absolutely right. Is that I was so nervous to see it. I genuinely thought it's going to be awful. Like there's no way you could do a sequel to Blade Runner 30 years later and it actually be any good. And oh my god,
we were wrong.
Wrong.
So there's so many aspects to it as to what make it so good. So yeah, I guess first off, as you say, Dave, like it's the number one thing that stands out, the visual side of it. I mean, we said it. The original Blade Runner is a template for all kind of future dystopian sci-fi films. So how on earth can you match up with that? You get Roger Deakins. That's how. And I've said this so many times. People who know me, this is a bit of a cliche of mine, but the thing I like to say about that movie is you could take a screen grab from any moment of this film and it's a poster. Like it's just a work of art that he has thought about every frame of that movie. And that in itself already makes it a great cinematic experience. It already makes it a great tribute and a great follow-on to Blade Runner. So you think, okay, you've got the visual side of it down. Fantastic. Like, and even all the costumes and everything else, the design, brilliant. Okay, you follow that. It goes
further as well. It's not just like Blade Runner is in its small, contained, dark neon environment. Yeah. And then this movie takes you further and shows you more of the world.
Yeah.
And,
and it makes sense. Like every layer, every place that you visit, you go, oh yeah, I could totally see that. Like a big orange desert. Yeah, makes sense. There's a big junkyard. Yeah, makes sense. There's, different corners of the city. I even think the sort of bit towards the end, there's a big fight with Kay and Love, and it's all in the rain, and it's by that sort of dock. It's like a big dam. Beautiful. All makes sense. Like you say, so the visual side of it, massive tick. You've done it. And also, incidentally, it got Roger Deakins his Oscar at long last.
About time.
And you think, yeah, makes 100% sense. Fine. Then there's the music, and the score. I think it's a 2-part score. I'd have to forgive me. I can't remember who the original. So it's Hans Zimmer and Benjamin
Wolfish. That's what I was going to say.
I can never get his last name right. Very sorry, but the two of those, because I think Benjamin was originally on it, and then he had to step away from the project for whatever reason. So Hans Zimmer comes in, and the two of them do an amazing job, I think, of capturing the spirit of the original Vangelis score, which was all very synthy. But you do it with orchestras and you do it with other instruments. And anyone who's, if you've not already heard Hans Zimmer in particular talking in interviews about music, and like just go and listen to him. The man's incredible, and his knowledge of music and instruments, he's very experimental, and it works. It works really well for this film. So it's like, okay, you've got the visual, you've got the sound. And the next big thing, and this is a scary thing, is what about the story? Because that's really hard to follow. It's a huge part of this movie, right? Yeah. I mean, Rich, you know what I'm on about here. Like, it's something that Blade Runner fans go over and over, and we obsess over it, and we talk about all the details and all the things that go into it. So how do you follow that up? Yeah. Well, because I mean, one big thing of the original, and it's in the book as well, is this running theme of, is Deckard a replicant or not? And it's meant to be deliberately ambiguous. Again, you read the book, you watch the film, especially the final cut, I think they understand that it's meant to be an ambiguous ending because that's the point of the story. Is, does it? It doesn't matter. If he's human or not, is his life?
You're supposed to leave that movie thinking.
Exactly.
You're supposed to leave that movie making your own decision about whether you think Deckard's a replicant or not.
And the Tears in Rain speech kind of backs that up. It's this idea of, is your life worth any more or less because of whether or not you're human? Really powerful stuff. So you come into this movie and you think, okay, we've got a new protagonist, so are they just going to do the same thing again? Well, within, again, the first 10 minutes, the answer is quite clearly no, because Ryan Gosling's Kay gets thrown through a wall by Dave Bautista's Sapper Morton. And then watching that, and that was my first thought, was like, okay, so what was the deal here? Is he human? Is he not? And he gets thrown through that wall, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's a replicant. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like
he gets stabbed in the arm with a scalpel and doesn't flinch.
Exactly.
And you're like, he's a replicant. we know.
And then he lays Dave Bautista out, and you're like, yeah, he's definitely a replicant. Okay. And that decision alone is so intelligent because it then means that you're moving away from the original. So you can kind of relax as a fan of the original. Okay, they're not going to touch that again. But they will come back to it, and I'll get to that in a minute. But they kind of go, okay, so this is a new story, it's a new character, and the fact that we now know he's a replicant changes everything about the way that we feel as an audience about this character, because we're now thinking about him differently, and it gives you a completely different point of view. There's stuff where he has to deal with like racism, for example. I think the phrase "skin job" comes up a lot. And like people are like saying it to him in the street, and it's painted on his door, and you're like, so you're seeing that side of the world through a completely different point of view, which is genius. And then it moves into the relationship side of it, whereas again the original is very much an ambiguous thing of kind of man love a woman, but what a female replicant, but what if he is a replicant, and This film, no, we're staying away from that. We know he's a replicant, but he is in love. But here's a twist: she's a hologram. You're like, what? But again, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's built into the universe so seamlessly that you just go, oh yeah, okay, I could see that. And then that goes one step further with Anna de Armas's Joy, she's amazing in this movie. I mean, everybody is. And their whole relationship takes the whole of the meaning of like, he knows she's not real, but he treats her like she's real.
Yeah.
And like, that whole thing is absolutely beautiful. And so like all of these themes are going on as you're watching the movie, and you go, this is genius. He's just taken the world of the original, and it's clearly Denis Villeneuve is a fan. So he's just thought a lot about what else you could do. How else can you play in this sandbox? And all this stuff goes on. And then underneath all of that, you've got what the original Blade Runner is, which, as you said, Rich, is a noir film. There's a crime. He opens with him finding a body. And then who's the body? Oh, it's Rachel. And she's had a child? And then suddenly you're like, whoa, okay, this whole mystery just blown up. And now you're on this journey with him. And it gets the pacing right as well, which is really important. Which, again, doesn't surprise me, because if you look at Villeneuve's filmography, he's done a lot of thrillers. He clearly knows how to set that up. And that works really well. Again, you're watching the mystery, and it does that really hard thing, I think, that a lot of noirs and thrillers struggle with sometimes, which is like keeping the audience in the dark, but just at the right time. So there's a lot of twists and turns in this movie, but they work. I vividly remember the moment he's in that massive abandoned warehouse, and he's going through, and he finds the horse, the little toy horse, and it has the date card, and he knows exactly where to look because it's his dream. And that whole moment, and just kind of, you sat in the cinema going, oh my God, he must be the human child. This is so like, and then that just gets ripped away from you later on. But it's not stupid. You're not going like, oh, that was a complete waste of time. It makes sense.
I like that. That's the bit I like the most.
Exactly.
Is that you go through it going, he is the one. He's the one. He's the one. And then you go, actually, you're not. He thinks he's the one. And he has to deal with that, that knowledge going, actually, you are a replicant and you're not the one. Sorry.
And this is it. And it's, again, playing with the themes of the original in a really intelligent way, progressing the story in a way that makes complete sense. Yeah. And then all of that leads to bringing back Harrison Ford's Deckard, which is interesting because you watch this film and you're like, you could have this film without him. You could tell the story without bringing Deckard back. But they do, and it's just lovely to see Harrison Ford in a role that he clearly enjoys playing. And, I mean, he just turns up in like a grey shirt and jeans, so clearly it was quite easy for him just to walk on set. But he brings so much weight to that role and his whole story. And again, I think Villeneuve is very careful not to touch the original movie and the legacy, because the obvious thing you could do is, well, he's back, so let's just answer the question once for all. Is he replicant? Is he not? This movie deliberately sidesteps it.
I'm really glad they didn't.
Yeah, and there's a moment where you've got Jared Leto's Wallace, and you think he's just answered it. He's saying, obviously paraphrasing that, oh, perhaps do you think it was weird that you met her, and was this all just by design or not? And just it's that moment where he says or not, and you kind of go, oh thank God, thank God you didn't touch it. But and again, I think that's the mark of a director who goes, yeah, I respect the original way too much to just trample all over it and ruin the legacy. He's just very gently kind of just going, yeah, I'm aware that's there, but that's not the story we're telling here.
I think touching on Jared Leto.
Oh yeah, please do.
I think he's the only bit of the movie that I don't like as much.
Do you know,
that whole...
I think he's all right.
He's all right. That's the thing. He's all right. He's not amazing.
Did you read about it? Because we continuously mock Jared Leto for, if he's in a wheelchair, he's going to stay for a wheelchair for the whole shoot. Well, in this one, he pretty much made himself blind for every time.
Yeah.
Did he?
So I'm just, come on, mate.
Do you know what? I'm with you in this, in that I think he's great in this role. He's only in it for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's not long.
It's not long. And so it does make me wonder about the whole method acting of, I'm going to wear blind contacts. And it's like, you could just pretend, it's your job. And I thought the same thing, because I heard about the whole Morbius wheelchair thing. And I thought, that's just so inconsiderate of people that are on the set. And so I wonder, if he did the same thing on this movie of like, you're going to have to like guide me to the bathroom or something with a walking stick, which it's weird, right? Because I was thinking about this today with Jared Leto and the whole, because I thought it might come up, the whole like method acting thing. Because it's what he's known for.
Yeah.
He's a musician, right? He's a singer. So I'm just wondering if he does the whole method acting on set of like, I must always be in character and whatever. Do you reckon he does the same when it comes to like being on tour, recording albums? Is he like just constantly singing and just, if anyone wants to talk to him, they're like, all right, Jared, can you do that take again? I'm sorry, what did you say? And it's like, oh, for goodness, could you do it again? No, I can't imagine he is, right? Because that would be infuriating. And also he'd blow his voice out after like 2 days. So it's weird. I'm like, you clearly understand that, yes, you need to warm up as a performer and you need to give of your best. Absolutely. But you don't have to be doing it all the time. You don't have to be on all the time. So yeah, I'm with you there. It's odd. But yeah, as far as this movie's concerned, he's pretty solid. He's very creepy and weird, and
he's definitely creepy and weird. Maybe it's just I don't like Wallace, and you're not supposed to like Wallace anyway, are you?
No, it's it's in his wheelhouse. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And Gosling, and let's just quickly I want to talk about that jacket. So fucking cool. Right. The man is so good at not saying anything. I think he delivers in this like drive.
This was the year I fell in love with him as an actor, because I think prior to this, my wife's concerned. Prior to this,
aren't they all?
I know. Prior to this, I hadn't really seen a lot of his stuff, and I think it's the same year he did La La Land, and then he did First Man, and he did Blade Runner, and I saw all these movies within like a year of each other, and I was like, this guy's really good. Like, he's got a lot of range, and I love him in this role. He, as you say, he can just say so much with a look, and he's really good at playing quiet rage, and that's really important for the role of Kay, somebody who's constantly felt like an outsider, and like you say, he's given this moment of feeling like he's important and special, and that's all he wants. That's all any of them want, and it's ripped away from him. And that moment where he stood in the rain, like beaten and battered, and he's lost joy, and he's just been told, you're not special, sorry. And then that huge hologram of Joy turns up and she calls him a good Joe. And again, I remember that and being like, oh, that hurts. And just the look of rage on his face, the way he does it, is so good. And it's brilliant, because then it leads into the final scene where he chases after Deckard and Love. And because of that, the way he's performed it, you have no idea what he's going to do when he catches up to them. Yeah. And it's so scary. Like, their whole fight's really intense. And then the whole time I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to save Deckard or kill him. Like, it's really hard to tell in this moment, and it's brilliant. It's just so thrilling.
I want to know, going in, how excited were you, nervous, and how you felt afterwards? Was it relief?
Oh, massive. Yeah, like I said, I think going in it was kind of, I think this will be good, but I don't know. And then at the end, I was just like, that was incredible. That was the best thing I've ever seen.
Did you go see it again instantly?
I didn't see it again in this. I don't think I had time, but as soon as it came out on DVD, as soon as it was available, I bought it and just, straight home, watch it. And yeah, it's one of those, like I said, it's at least once a year. I'll just get a glass of whiskey, sit down and just be immersed in this world again because it's so stunning and everybody's great in it. And as we said, the visual style, the sound, the story, I just love everything about it. It's, in my opinion, and this is incredibly biased, obviously, I feel like this is a perfect movie. I feel like it sets out to do exactly, well, let me rephrase that. it achieves exactly what it set out to do, which, as we established earlier, is nigh on impossible. When you're following up a cult classic film, you know, how can you do that after 30 years with a rabid fan base? You know, that you've got one corner of the people that are going to see it are going to be, you know, looking at every frame of this movie and analyzing it. And then the other half of the people who are going to see it have probably maybe seen Blade Runner or maybe they haven't. You know, I mean, I've watched this with people. It's funny, I've watched it with people who haven't seen the original and it works for them as well.
Yep.
That's the other thing. As a sequel, it stands alone. Like I've watched it with people and they've gone, oh yeah, I get what's going on here. Oh, this is actually quite clever, isn't it? You know, and they understand the themes. Now, of course, it will mean a lot more if they know who Rachel and Deckard are. But again, it's not important. It's not crucial. It's not like this whole film collapses if you have no idea who those people are.
Yeah.
You get the general gist of what's happening.
I went in very cold. My mate dragged me. I think it was even the first day. I was like, "Hey, do you want to go see Blade Runner tonight?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, why not? I've got nothing else to do." You know how I feel about the first one. I like it, but he dragged me to the IMAX to see it. And like you, Harley, like halfway through, I just whispered, I was like, "This is fucking awesome."
And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
It's so good. I like it's. I can't. The textures and the colors and the sounds. It's like I just want to lick the screen kind of thing. It felt so real.
I'm so glad you didn't.
No, it's a big old screen, to be honest, an IMAX screen. It's huge. Sir, get down.
So why did you get arrested? Oh, licked a cinema screen?
It's okay. It's Ryan Gosling. Oh, never mind. That's fine.
Oh, yeah, we get it.
We understand. Happens all the time, sir.
Lick away.
Lick away. It's amazing. Like I said, everyone in this is brilliant, and it does the thing I love of progressing a story to its next logical step. You know, you're talking about replicants, and again, the theme of the first is, you know, if you can tell the difference and all of this. And then the next step is, well, what if one can conceive? What if they can have kids? And then are they not the same? And it's this whole thing that I just think is really, really clever and just makes sense for the story to go there. And it ends as well. It sort of teases a sequel, but not really. Again, I like that it doesn't lean too heavily on that. It just kind of goes, yeah, here's some potential. Here's where it can go. We'll leave it there.
We'll see you in 30 years.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
It's happening now, isn't it? They're doing a TV series, I think.
I have heard this, yeah.
Were you disappointed that this, as Villeneuve put, this is the most expensive art house film anyone's ever made, and it didn't do well at the box office. It won a few awards, like Deakins won. Yeah, but it was.
Yeah, I was a bit gutted, but then I understood why, because again, as we said before,
it's a hard sell.
It is a hard sell. Yeah, Blade Runner, the original, it's a cult film. Not everybody knows about it or has the time for it. It's long. And to come back to your thing, noir films, I think as a genre anyway in themselves, can be a bit of a hard sell because not everybody's got the time and the patience. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like some people just want to switch off action film or a romantic comedy or whatever, and that's totally fine. When you're like, oh yeah, it's a noir film, right? Set in the future, okay, with robots, okay, and it's a follow-up to Blade Runner. What? Yeah,
30 years old.
30 years on, and it deals with, you know, the existential crisis of being human, and it's nearly 3 hours long, and it deals with, you know, all these really heavy themes of humanity and bits of misogyny and all sorts of things. It makes you think and feel, and it's like, yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Okay.
I'll wait until it's on TV.
Yeah, yeah.
But then when it's on TV, it's on ITV, they add adverts, and then it's going to be 5 hours long.
Well, I'll save people the hassle. This is a film that frequently comes up on streaming. In fact, time of recording, I believe it's on Netflix. So it frequently comes up on Netflix and Prime. It bounces between the two. So I encourage you, if you've not seen this film, please do yourself a favour and watch it.
What has been your most disappointing sequel?
That's a good question. There's been a lot of them. I mean, the real answer was covered by Sarah Buddery recently, so I won't go near that.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, Rise of Skywalker. Everyone has it, and I completely understand. And Sarah nailed it. Everything she said, 100% agree. So I was thinking about this. I would probably go with, I think the Bourne franchise died a death. I remember that one because it was the 3 good ones.
Yeah.
Then there was Legacy, which was this horrendous sidequel, reboot, spin-off, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's really strange.
God knows. Died
a death. It was awful. That's a bad movie. It's just straight up bad. And then they were going to come back. They said, "Oh, we're going to bring Matt Damon back, and we're going to do one more." And I think they just called it Jason Bourne. I think that's what it was called.
They did.
And I remember kind of thinking, all right, yeah, do you know what? I'm up for this. I quite enjoyed the first 3. Hopefully they can kind of retcon some of the weird stuff that happened in the last one, and just a good old action movie, you know? And it's Bourne. It's kind of fun. It's got that political intrigue. It's, you know, all this stuff going on. And the result was just boring. It was just really bland. I don't know if you guys remember seeing this film at all when it came out.
I don't think I watched it. I
watched it on a plane, and I can tell you, it's absolute. I can't remember anything.
It's a plain movie. It's a plain movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely
no,
right.
I can't remember anything. I remember he's in it. Alicia Vikander's in it. Is Riz Ahmed in it?
Yes. He's like a tech guy of some sort.
He's like an Elon Musk. Because it's something to do with the internet or something.
It's something to do with, I think he has like I think he's meant to be like a Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
I think he's a Mark Zuckerberg type, and it's meant to be like the CIA are trying to like hack this site and use it to spy on people, which they already do. But it was like, they're trying to make it like this plot point, and everyone sat in the cinema going, yeah, we know this isn't shocking or scary. This is just life. And then, like you say, Alicia Vikander's in it with a weird Irish accent, I seem to recall, which was very on and off. I don't know why. And then Tommy Lee Jones is doing a Harrison Ford in that he doesn't want to be there, but is just quite clearly in for the paycheck. And then Matt Damon as well, he just seemed to be on autopilot for this movie. You know, it was weird. I remember the one thing that stood out to me, I don't know why these things stay in my brain, but they do. When the trailer first comes out, there's like a shot of him in somewhere like Romania doing like bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah.
And it's like quite a great shot of him just like squares up to one guy and it's like, bam, one punch, he's down. And it's, you know, front facing, like really well shot and choreographed. And you're like, oh, cool. In the movie, it's shot from a completely different angle. And I remember like in the movie, like waiting for that scene and going like, well, this scene was pretty good. I'll see this again on the big screen. And it just cuts to like somewhere in the crowd behind him. So it's all obscured. And you're like, but you have a front-facing show. What? I don't understand. Like, what? And I think, like, that's the tone of the movie. It's like, we have some good stuff in here. We have stuff that we can show you and will work and will be great. But for some reason, we're not going to use it. And that's just a movie. It's like you say, very forgettable. I can't really remember anything else that happens in it. I don't think it does anything for the wider story of the previous 3. I don't know if any of, like, Treadstone or any of that comes back up again. It's just weird. It's a film that didn't need Jason Bourne. It's like, you could have just cast anyone else in this and just called it Action Man or like generic, I don't know, Jack Ryan, Jack Reacher, Jack Thomas or Jack whoever, another Jack, and it would have been fine.
You're sticking with Jack though.
Well, that's what they're all called apparently. So
because the first 3 are it's a pretty strong trilogy, like as far as 3
solid
films go. It's up there.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking of like an action hero called Keith.
That's what it would be, yeah.
Keith Bourne.
Coming to you in the cinemas, Keith.
An accountant by day, superhero by night.
Yeah.
I still watch it. Okay, Harley, let's go for it. What is your worst sequel ever?
Okay, so worst sequel ever is probably the film I hate more than any other film because I've thought about it way too much, and that is Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Oh, what a big pile of poop.
Wow, you are opening a can of worms because some people love this.
Who loves this movie? Honestly.
Okay, before we dig into it, Zack Snyder's got this weird legion of fans.
Oh, he has a cult. He has a
that
full-on
treat
cult.
him like a god, and I don't understand it, and I don't get it. He makes average films.
I will say this, right, about the Snyder Bros, as they're lovingly known on the internet. If you cannot, I think if you can't validate your opinions and love for art with subjective criticisms and, you know, points about said art, but instead have to resort to basically cyberbullying and vitriol and hatred, is the art you're defending really that good? If you can't defend it on its merits, it's probably not that good.
That's a fair point.
I'm just saying, and I know people, I've had the privilege of speaking to lots of film journalists and stuff like that, as I'm sure you guys have as well. And yeah, if you bring up the Snyder Bros, like, man, they, particularly female journalists, seem to get a really hard time from those guys. And that's just not okay. I'll say that up top. Absolutely. It's worth addressing. Yeah. These movies, what he does, I got nothing against the guy. I think, he's got his style. He's got what he wants to do. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, this weird legion of people that just seem to pile on anyone who says, I don't like this movie. And they're like, you're wrong and you're stupid and you're not man enough. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's a movie. Chill out. And especially for a film like this, because it's about superheroes. And it's like, well, superheroes are all about being good and looking after one another and saving the day. It's not very, Superman to try and bully somebody online, is it? Because you don't agree about a film. That's just, I don't understand that lane of thinking. I mean,
why don't you like this film?
Because it's bad. Because I just want to say up top, I went into this movie hoping for the best. I'm somebody, when I watched Man of Steel, I liked it. It has its problems, but overall, I kind of like it as a movie. I think it's all right. It definitely suffers from the Zack Snyder style over substance filmmaking, and it suffers from the trend that was at the time with superheroes of everything has to be dark and gritty, and they've got to have a dark origin, and we can't call him Superman because that's too childish. Let's call him Man of Steel. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine. If you want your dark and gritty origin story for the beacon of hope that is meant to be Superman, fine. You can have that. And the movie kind of ends on that optimistic note. It ends with like, okay, we've had this now. Now he's going to go and be Superman. And so I thought, cool. All right, the second one, that's what we'll see, right? And, we're getting Batman in this movie. Fine. I'm familiar with Dark Knight Returns as the inspiration. I think it's a really solid story. Yeah, let's see it on the big screen. And this movie I talk about misunderstanding the source material. I mean, good grief. So sticking with Superman for a second, like I said, the previous movie ended... Yeah, you can sit back. I'm literally going to just rant for like an hour.
I was just going to say, this is going to be one of those ones where we don't have to say a thing.
Yeah, and I'll start talking quicker and just, out of breath, and you'll hear me smashing things, and I'll try, keep it contained. No, this first movie, so right, Superman, Man of Steel ends on that note of like, he's going to be Superman in the next movie, and you're like, fair enough, cool. In this film, Dawn of Justice, which... dumbass title, but I know that wasn't Snyder's fault, so I'll let him off for that. This movie, it just sends the character backwards. It doesn't progress him in any way. It doesn't sort of go, okay, now he's Superman, he's Supermaning about. It pulls him back into the dark and gritty. It doesn't let Superman be Superman in this film. It just has him flying around and looking sorry for himself and like, oh, no one understands me, like some sort of teenager. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, you're wasting this character and you're wasting the actor. Henry Cavill is a very charming and charismatic actor. He could be a fantastic Superman if you just let him. But this movie won't, because it has to be dark and it has to be super serious, and Superman can't be happy. And there's even a montage in this film where he saves a bunch of people and he just looks really sad, and he's like in slow motion and he's obscured, like he's this unknowable deity. And it's like, for God's sake, like he's a character. You're asking me to pick a side in a minute because these guys are going to fight. So I, as an audience member, have to invest in one of these people. It ain't going to be him because I don't know him. Because you're not letting me. You're just making him this super unlikable.
Just because you love slow-mo so much.
Yes.
He even makes Clark Kent boring.
Exactly. Yeah, he gets nothing. And I don't blame Henry Cavill for this. I just feel sorry for him. I remember watching the movie going like, oh, you poor guy. You've got nothing to do in this movie. All right, fine. I guess we're not progressing the story of him. All right.
Clark Kent's supposed to be witty.
And there's
he's
this
supposed to
lovable
be funny.
bumbling,
But he's bumbling on purpose. That's the whole point of Clark Kent. He's not bumbling.
No.
He's bumbling to be a bit funny because he knows he's Superman.
Yeah, there's charm.
absolutely.
There's none of that in this character, and it's such a shame. So there's that side of the movie, and you think, okay, fine, whatever. But he's barely in it for most of the films. You think, okay, all right, you're obviously wanting to do a Batman story. Fine, let's see what's happening with Batman. Credit to this film where credit is due. The intro is pretty solid. It's Batman is there on the day Metropolis falls, and you go, oh, that's cool. Good. All right, it's well shot. I understand the motivations now of Bruce Wayne, why he's freaked out, understandably, by this big godlike figure who's just smashing cities. Yeah, absolutely. He'd want to go and check out and figure out how to neutralize or deal with a potential problem, because that's what Batman does. famously in storylines as comics and cartoons where members of the Justice League have confronted Batman because he has contingency plans for all of them. And his response is, of course I do, because you're all basically gods. So if one of you flies off the handle, be pretty irresponsible of me not to have a way of stopping you. So I'm like, cool, I get this. I see where you're going with this movie. And then the film just veers sharply to the left and is like, nope, he's not doing it to contain. He's not doing it out of any sensible reason. He's just a psychopathic lunatic who wants to kill everybody. And you're like, well, hang on. Batman, this is Batman we're talking about here. A man who has famously seen his parents murdered, which, by the way, you're aware of because you showed me it in slow motion for 10 minutes, the opening credits. And, guns are a pretty big thing in this. Nah, he's over that. It's fine. He's just going to drive around machine gunning people to death and kicking heads in and throwing grenades on people. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, why is Batman a full-on murderer in this? Because there's a 1% chance. Sorry, what? Say that again? A 1% chance that if he's a problem, we have to take it as an absolute certainty. What are you talking about? There's a 1% chance any of us can be murderers. Is that just your justification now for murdering people?
That doesn't make sense, that line,
It doesn't
right?
make sense.
No.
It also doesn't make sense because the Joker's alive in this universe. That guy, 100% chance he's going to kill you. Why is he out there? But Superman, no. Okay, yeah, fine, right, whatever. The internal logic of this makes no sense, so fine. And then, again, coming back to what I was saying with Superman, you're not invested in him because there's nothing there. There's no character. He's just mopey and miserable and awful. Batman's a raving lunatic in this movie. You're not invested in him either. No. So then come to the fight, where they're meant to be having this big dramatic punch-up, you couldn't care less. You're not invested as an audience. You're just kind of going, all right, I guess we're doing this. Okay.
The point where they stop the fight, the reason that they stop the fight is like,
yes. Let's get to this.
Hang on a minute. Our mums have got the same name. We should be friends.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Because
Shut up.
That's the thing, right? The build-up to this fight is nothing. The fight is fine, but it's weightless because we don't care about the characters. And as you say, Rich, correctly, the way that they have to get themselves out of this corner that they've written themselves into, because, by the way, Batman's fight here, it's not to contain or disarm or anything like that. It's to murder. He is going to full-on stab this dude with a kryptonite spear, and you're like, yeah, of course he is, because he's a raving loony bin in this one. How's he going to get stopped? Martha. What? Hang on. What? Martha.
Is that the safe word?
Yeah. That would be such a better explanation, because honestly, I remember vividly saying out loud in the cinema, "Are you kidding me?" Like when he said that, I was like, "Really? That's what you're going with?" And the worst part is you can see past this movie into the writer's room where they've just gone, "Hey guys, have you noticed that Batman's mum, Superman's mum, got the same name?"
Yeah.
You've done it. That's the movie. That's lunch, everybody. Let's go. Hand this. Don't even bother. No, second draft? Nah, let's just hand in the script. It's done. Oh, it's so painfully stupid. And at that point, I just checked out of the film. I was like, right, okay, this is the level.
You got that far and then checked out. Oh.
Mate, I was hanging on for dear life. But at just that point, I was like, okay, this movie just does not care. And you think about
that point, it sort of turned into Step Brothers.
Well, this is it.
Your mum's called Martha. My mum's called Martha. Did we just become best friends?
Exactly. And then Lois Lane turns up as well out of nowhere. She just gets a taxi cab to the middle of nowhere.
Is so pointless in this movie.
I know. I mean, again, I talk about Henry Cavill being wasted. Poor Amy Adams in this film's nothing to do.
There's a scene that really, really annoys me.
Oh, please
Is it the beginning?
This where she's in the bath.
Oh,
She's in the bath,
Yes.
and Clark comes in.
Yep.
Why is she in the bath?
Do you know what,
apart from you to give some fanboys a thrill.
Bless my long-suffering wife, Abigail. She watched this with me when in preparation for this, and that was exactly what she said. She was like, why does Amy Adams have to be in the bath all naked? It's it's a bit weird and creepy, isn't it? I was like, yes, you are 100% correct. It is weird.
Could she not be
creepy.
sat at her computer writing an article?
Yeah, could she not be a person?
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? And again, it's just what absolutely breaks my brain when I think about this is okay, so you've come up with this incredibly flimsy reason for getting these guys to stop fighting. And I know people out there that defend it and say, oh, it's Batman realizing that he has humanity. It's like, yeah, but it's also really dumb, because how many people has he murdered in this movie? I'm sure some of them had relatives called Martha. Didn't stop to ask, did he?
They all had mums.
They all had mums, exactly. It's so flimsy. And you think, okay, so why have they done this? Why are they rushing to stop this fight? it's so that they can do Death of Superman. And you go, what? Hang on, where's this coming from? Why are you having him fight a big CG blob and then being killed at the end? It's like...
It's awful.
It's awful. And also, again, as we've established, we don't care about Superman because we don't know him yet. We've not been given the chance. And now you're going to kill him off? Why?
Yeah.
What was the point in that? And but guess what? It's even more of a waste because you don't even commit to it. The end of the film, the final shot is, oh, bit of dirt off the ground. Like, and to lead me on to another point, I know that's going to happen. Do you know how I know? Because this movie will not stop ramming the Justice League down my throat. It keeps pausing the movie every few minutes to go, by the way, Justice League,
It's coming.
We've made symbols.
By way of analogy, it would be like if you're at a restaurant and you're eating a meal and you're like, this meal's not very good. I'm not enjoying this. This is like, it's a bit of hard work getting through this. And as you're doing it, a waiter just comes along and just starts scraping bits of a second course onto your plate and just goes, this is the good stuff.
Waving the dessert under your nose.
And then, to the point where they're almost shoving it down your throat and you're going like, go away. Like, leave me alone. I'm trying to just stop. And it's something that a lot of sequels and bad franchises do all the time is like, we need more of these. So we have to set the sequel. It's like, just no. Tell the story that you're telling here first. And if it is good enough, then you have earned a sequel. Just because you have the rights to Batman, Superman, whoever, it does not automatically mean you have a franchise. You have to earn it. And that infuriated me for the entire film, that it was like, by the way, we're going to do a Justice League movie. It's like, well, this is pretty awful, so I don't know if I want to see a Justice League movie. It doesn't matter, you're getting it. And it keeps breaking up the flow of the film. I mean, there's a dream sequence within a dream sequence in this film. Batman, for some reason, knows what parademons are and is aware of Darkseid, but also he's not, because then the Flash turns up and you're like, what is happening in this film? Like, why is the Flash here? Oh, he's not here anymore. What's that about Lois? Does this come back up in the film? Nah. Is it addressed in any of the sequels? Nah. It's like, why? Why are you doing this? Ugh.
Do you think it would have worked better if they had a solo Batman film before this film?
I mean, maybe, but like...
I think it'd work if they had another Superman film between that one and this one.
Absolutely. Like, have a Superman film with him being Superman. Let us connect it. And same with Batman. Absolutely. Do a solo Batman film. There was a lot of scuttlebutt on the internet at the time of like the potential scripts floating around, and some of them sounded awesome. You're like, yeah, just do that. But this is a classic example of a studio just doing a hop, skip, and a jump to the Avengers, like thinking that they can have a big franchise. It's like, no, you have to earn that. You cannot just shove it.
Build it.
Yeah, and this film is so just flimsily built, and like I said, it's just building to something that ultimately is anticlimactic, has nothing going for it. It's just all over the shop. There's threads in this movie that just don't make any sense. Wonder Woman's in it for no reason.
We have to talk about the Lois, and the beginning and the bullet thing.
Before we do,
and
can I
just
just?
talk about?
I'm going to massively upset all the Snyder babies now, but what the fuck is with his use of music? It's so on the nose, it hurts.
Yeah.
Every time we see Wonder Woman, we will hear the Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Quite like that music.
I like the theme as well, but it's
I like the music, but just don't use it like that.
Yeah.
Like it's horrible.
She walks in a room and it's like, you're like, yeah, okay, we get it. And but also to that point, why is she in this movie?
It's like when Peter Griffin in Family Guy plays a tuba player to go around and play his theme tune everywhere he walks. It's like Wonder Woman's paying someone to go around and play that riff.
Yeah, and like Gal Gadot is wasted in this. Like she's just there so she can turn up and do a bit of action at the end. And it's like, okay, but why? Just leave her be. Like, she's got a solo movie coming up and it's fantastic, by the way, thankfully. So you're like, cool, just let that be.
The sequel.
That one is. The sequel is not.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, that was a waste of time. There's so much stuff in here that just doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm glad you brought the bullet thing, and because the way that movie opens, it's so weird. Because again, it has Superman just kind of show up to save Lois. You're like, okay, fair enough. Who was that that got shot in the face? Oh, that was what's his name, the photographer?
Jimmy Olsen.
Thank you.
That's all in the Ultimate Edition. The Ultimate Edition, like, let me just go into this for a sec.
Yeah, please do.
The rebels, the bad guys in the black, they killed the other rebels with bullets. Yeah. And that's what we see in this edition. And then somehow Superman gets blamed for this. I was like, Superman doesn't shoot. I don't understand why. But apparently in the Ultimate Edition, it is slightly better, it shows them burning the body, so it makes it look like he's charred them with the eyes.
But they are aware that forensics exists, right? And that cause of death is still bullet, which is not Superman. And it's addressed in the film. Lois says to the general guy at the end, is like, oh, we found these bullets. She's a reporter. How does she get hold of that? But she just finds out and is like, oh yeah. And they go back to Lex Luthor. And then the guy's like, well,
again, that's
can't do anything
answered
about it.
in the Ultimate Edition. There's a G. Malone is a character who gives her all that information to go to it. But yeah,
but nothing happens with it. Nothing happens.
No.
And
Of
again,
course it doesn't.
It's weird because again, the beginning of this film does that exposition quite nicely. It sets up like, okay, yeah, the events of Man of Steel were earth-shattering, quite literally. That's enough to carry you into this film, but it feels the need to double down and give you even more. And it's just incoherent and it doesn't tie up in any way. And like you said, you're just sat there going like, but Superman doesn't use a gun.
No.
But why does
doesn't
Batman
need a
know
gun.
what parademons are? Like, what is going on? I'm really confused. None of this makes any sense.
I think Superman doesn't need a gun because he's faster than a speeding bullet, as we've already worked out.
Yes.
Because he moves faster than a bullet about 3 seconds into that.
Yeah.
Like,
So you're like,
why is he there? I was like, well, he's probably where Lois Lane is, because that happened to Man Steel a lot as well.
yeah. And yet no one's able to figure that one out.
No. Lex Luthor. We have to talk about Lex and Jesse Eisenberg.
oh, do we
So-
have to?
Miscast or miswritten or
Both? Question
What do you
mark?
reckon? Because it's definitely wrong.
Oh, it's 100% wrong. I mean, when you think about on paper, Lex Luthor as a villain, you go, okay, why is a man a threat to a demigod that is Superman? Well, the answer is he has to bring something to the table, right? He has to be cunning and devious and super like intelligent and evil. Not some weird trust fund kid with daddy issues who's weighing in jars and is having breakdowns in public.
We have to talk about the piss jar as well.
Basically, he's Howard Hughes in this movie. And you're like, that's not a threat. That's not a threat to Superman. It's just really bizarre. Like you said, the acting choice, the writing for him is awful.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And again, does not need to be in this movie. You do not need a Lex Luthor in this film for it to work. It's just overstuffing the plot. That's all it is.
He's just a way for
Doomsday
Doomsday to exist, essentially, isn't
Yeah,
it? That's
exactly.
all he's there for.
Exactly, which doesn't need to happen in this film.
And for the payoff of you go, oh, he's bold now. No, I've read a comic. Yeah.
He looks like the guy in the thing. It's like, yeah, we get it. So why did he have a weird wig for most of the movie? Could have just had him as bold from day one. Like, because he has to earn the boldness. What? Okay, all right, whatever.
I was convinced when I first watched it, I was like, this isn't the real Lex Luthor. He keeps mentioning his dad. The dad's Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
This is Lex Luthor Jr. or someone. We're going to get a proper act. Not a proper act. That sounds horrible, Jesse Eisenberg. But we're going to get a real Lex Luthor, like a Bryan Cranston. That
was the rumour, yeah. That was the rumour for a longest time. But again, it's just...
it just kept going. You're like, no, they're sticking with this. They really are going with this.
They're just going with it. And like you said, it doesn't work. And it undermines the movie. And his whole plot to frame
He's
Superman
in a different film.
is just... Yeah, he is like... You're right. He's in a different film. His story, his plot is in a different film. So is Batman's. So is Superman. This is the thing. It's like 3 different things going on at once. None of them gel together. They're all
it's
really
intelligible
confusing.
nonsense.
And none of the characters' behavior is ever explained or like properly rationalized. Case in point, the whole thing with Batman of like, okay, why is he going full on psychopath here and murdering loads of people? Oh, death in the family. And you go, oh, okay. Are you going to explain that to people? Nah. Just here's a black suit that looks like every other black suit in these movies with some graffiti. I paused on that for my wife and I turned to her and I said, what do you think that is? And she goes, oh, it looks like a Batman costume with, is that Riddler or graffiti, Joker? It's like, you're pretty close. That's meant to be a Robin suit. And that's Joker graffiti. And it's referring to Death in the Family where the Robin gets killed basically by Joker. And she goes, oh, that's not very clear, is it? And I went, no, it is not very clear.
No, because it's just for the
explained.
fans. And no, because exactly. It's just for people watching this movie to go, oh, I've read that comic.
And here's the thing.
I know that story.
It's an Easter egg. Easter eggs are not the same as exposition, as character development, as plot devices.
And that's the Batman movie it needed between Man of Steel and this.
Absolutely. And if you did that, I think it would have gone a long way to saving a lot of this film. But again, it's literally a studio just hop, skip, and a jump. Like, oh, we can do it. It's fine. We'll just shove some stuff in. Fans will get it. No, they won't. or they'll be really annoyed that you haven't done it properly. And then everybody else who doesn't know what this stuff is going to be even more confused because guess what? Vast majority of the people going to see this film are not avid comic book readers. They're not going to know what you're referencing. So you have to actually, tell a story.
And if they do, like me, they're going to be really fucking annoyed that you just ignored it.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be angry because they're going to go, well, you did that wrong.
You could be like my wife and fell asleep in the cinema watching it.
Don't blame her.
Flat out snoring pretty much next to me.
Don't blame her.
She had a great nap.
If I hadn't been in such an uncomfortable cinema, I might have done that.
Yeah, and then when Harley was like, sent us a list, I was like, oh, do you want to watch this again? And she was like, not a fucking chance. No. I was like, well, it's not the Ultimate Edition. It's not the one that's 3 hours long or 3 and a bit hours long. It's only the 2 hours 40.
It's so long.
It's so long.
So long.
And it's so boring. And that's the other thing as well. It's boring. It's a Superman and Batman film that's dull because neither character's given a lot to do and it's just a mess. And so much of it winds me up. Again, I've mentioned it before, but the whole desert dream sequence thing, what angers me even more to this day is that is still not resolved. Even in the Snyder Cut Justice League, which I have seen, by the way. I've sat through that.
We've all sat through it now.
Yeah.
Let's just go around. Thoughts, Rich?
What, Snyder Cut Justice League?
Yeah.
It's even more fucking boring than this.
Wow.
I mean, is a pile of sick better than a pile of poo? I don't know. No, that's a bit harsh.
I think the major thing with the Snyder Cut Justice League is if he didn't do all the slow-mo, it'd only be 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Oh,
he
yeah.
loves slow-mo. He loves it, doesn't he?
To circle back to what we were saying at the beginning of this conversation with the Snyder Bros, the thing about the Justice League, right, and I'll say this to Zack Snyder's credit, is he got...
Sorry, I thought you were going to say, and I'll say it to his face. Carry on.
I would say this to his face because it's a kind of compliment.
Okay.
The original movie, the Justice League, got taken away from him, and I think he got done over by Warner Brothers on that one, because for anyone who doesn't know, they were, I think, like 70, 80% of the way through making the film, and then his daughter took her own life, which is an unimaginable tragedy. Like, I can't even put into words how horrific that is. And so naturally, he stepped away to deal with that. And you think, right, completely understand. Now, what Warner Brothers should have done was gone, we're really sorry about this. Like, please take as much time as you need. We know you'll finish this. We know you want to do it. We'll delay it for a year or whatever. Like, just, it's fine.
Yeah.
They didn't. They went, we just want to make the money. So, Joss Whedon. And Joss Whedon just came in, and we've since learned, bit of a control freak, bit of a narcissist. And so he just came along and just ripped the movie to shreds. And so Justice League, I can say this much for Batman vs Superman, Justice League is way worse. What we got in the cinema is an incoherent mess. So when it was said, Snyder wants to finish it, we were all in lockdown, he's got the time, he's got the tools, he's got the footage. I think I just went, yeah, okay, fair enough. But the problem is,
at that point.
He had, but the problem is to come back to the Snyder Bros, they all saw this as some kind of weird moral victory for their deity that is Zack Snyder. And it's like, it's not. It's the same company that did him over the first time who've just sat down with a calculator and gone, how much is it going to cost us? Oh, we
can make some more money.
We've got HBO Max we need to plug. All right, yeah, you can do your movie. It doesn't matter how long it is. We don't care, actually, because it's going to be on streaming.
Yeah, people are going to watch it at home.
Yeah. And that's all that happened.
The thing that Warner Brothers could have done when you said that horrible tragedy happened was at least honour the man's vision. If they weren't prepared to give him the time to deal with his grief and not come back to the movie, is literally honour that man's vision.
Absolutely.
It's such a blatant cash grab.
It is.
That you go, hang on a minute, let's get the guy that did Avengers to do it.
And when you consider that it's basically off the back of someone dying, it's like, ooh, that's super gross.
Yeah. It's not nice.
It's not nice at all. So again, I thought, fair enough, he did it. Watched it at home like everybody else, the Snyder Cut. I agree with you, Rich. You could have cut out at least an hour of this movie because it's just all slow-mo. But in terms of the story, I thought it was okay. It's definitely better than what we got before. Mm-hmm. But it's still a bit of a mess. It's still incoherent. There are still weird things that happen. Martian Manhunter's in this for some reason, like pretending to be Martha, like Kent. It's like, why? There's stuff like that in the movie that just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, like I said, it's done now. And it's weird because I look at this movie and I look at everything else that's followed with this Warner Brothers DC EU. I don't know. I feel like they should just let it die a death. It's falling apart.
They're thinking about trying again now.
Please don't. Please don't.
effect is crazy.
Yeah.
Before we move on, can we please talk about how absolutely shite Doomsday is, please?
Do you know what?
Like, of all the things I hate about this movie,
Yeah.
I think I hate Doomsday the most.
I disagree. I think that's when you think, oh, at least we're getting something here. You know, a big smashy.
CGI grey blob in smoke.
Do you know what? At that point, I was like,
It looks
finally,
awful.
something's happening.
I don't know, Dave.
He looked like an orc from Lord of the Rings or a turtle from the Turtles from mashed together.
But have you seen any of like the original art design for Doomsday in the comics or the cartoons?
No, because I couldn't give a shit.
That's completely fair. But I encourage you to go and look up an image because what they design in that is at least visually interesting.
Yeah.
What you have in this is just, like you say, a weird, like, oh, have you got anything left over from Lord of the Rings? Yeah, all right, just slap that in there. And again, it's weightless. It's so weightless. I remember the moment when Superman picks up the spear and he's flying to one. It's all the dramatic music playing. I just sat in the cinema going, please don't do Death of Superman as well. Please don't. And then they did it. And I went, oh, for God's sake. It was like, just why? Why? We know you're not committing to this. We know you're not. We know Justice League is around the corner and you can't do it without Superman. So why are you wasting everybody's time with this really bad interpretation of a comic book from like, a decade or so ago? Like, what was the point? It's such a waste. And that's, again, the biggest thing that annoys me about this movie is it's a multi-million-dollar movie with A-list actors, with, professional directors. Everyone involved knows what they're doing, supposedly. And it's just a mess. And it's like, how? How do you get it so wrong?
Talking of what's the point, what was the point of firing a nuclear weapon at Doomsday and Superman?
Yeah.
He'd literally taken him off the fucking planet.
Weird, right?
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, he's basically a satellite now. What's the point in taking... Why? Why? Why?
I don't know.
You just made it all worse.
I keep thinking of more things like, why did they do this?
Dave, this is why I brought this film to the show, because
we haven't got time, Mark.
I know we haven't, but this is the thing.
This is going to be 3 hours long, this episode.
It is that kind of movie that is so bad. Like, as you say, like, my initial reaction was like, that was terrible. And the more I've sat with it and the more I've thought about it for the years, and I've listened to loads of people reviewing it and trying to see if there's maybe something I was missing. But no, just the more I've heard about it and the more I talk about it and the more I think about it, you're just left with more questions. Just like, that was weird as well. And that happened and that happened. And you think, I just don't get it. I don't get how you get something like this wrong. And it's such a shame. My biggest thing is I really just feel sorry for the cast in this because there's so much potential. I mean, poor Ben Affleck in this movie, man.
I thought he was great.
I think he's a brilliant... for me...
He looks like Batman.
Yeah. He's the best Batman and Bruce Wayne combo that I've seen.
Yeah, do you know what?
He's the one that can do both.
In a better movie, he would knock this out the park. But, I mean, there was that meme going around, wasn't there, of him and Henry Cavill at a press reading.
My old friend. Yeah.
And it's so perfect. Just he properly zones out, doesn't he, for like 30 seconds. And then it's just at the end, like, yeah, I agree. And like, you could just see he was just done. He was like, I'm out of this. I can't do this anymore.
I saw this movie in a really old, tiny little cinema in Bognor Regis. And the cinema itself is brilliant and charming, but quite uncomfortable to watch a very long movie in.
Yeah.
I'm a very tall man and it doesn't have a lot of leg room.
I feel your pain. Do you know, the funniest thing as well, after seeing this, I went to Dublin with a friend of mine to see Muse. And we went for like a couple of days. We'll make a trip of it. And my good buddy Liam had also seen this movie. And we were talking about it on the plane and like, it was really weird, wasn't it? And it was bad. And we were talking about all this stuff. And we both had Cineworld cards, right? And with Cineworld, you could see as many movies as you like and all the rest of it. And there was one in Dublin. And so sort of every now and then we're like, we need to kill a few hours because Dublin's very expensive. We thought, we'll just go and watch a movie. We watched like every film that was on in the cinema at the time besides this film because we just could not bring ourselves to go back to it. Me and my friend went and saw My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 over seeing this again because we were like, and my friend had never seen the first one. I had, so at least I knew what I was going in for. He had no idea. And I was like, are you sure you want to do it? And he's like, yeah, I just can't sit through Batman and Superman again. And I was like, I know exactly what you mean. Like, we just couldn't bring ourselves to do it. And this is the first time I've rewatched it, by the way, for this podcast.
Me too.
I've just avoided it like the plague ever since.
Weirdly, didn't hate it as much as I hated it the first time I watched it. But that's probably because I wasn't sat in an uncomfortable cinema and I was on my sofa and I could pause it and go and do other things.
For me, I bought it when it came out. I was like, it can't be as bad as I remember. It's got Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman pops up. It can't be a bad... I must have caught it on a bad day.
Right.
No, it's bad.
And that's it, right? That is exactly it, Dave. It's on paper. You're like, this should work. I don't understand. You just keep looking at it going, but it should work. It has all these amazing people in it. It has these beloved characters that have been in fiction for, at this point now, like 80 years. It's like, how? How did you get it this wrong? And I think the key is that it's two things. I think it's a studio trying to ram as much as possible for sequel bait into it. It's style over substance in terms of its filmmaking. And I think it's writers that just fundamentally do not understand the characters that they're writing for. Yeah. And it's the dark and gritty era, so everything has to be like that. And it's just completely missed the point, and it's such a shame.
It's like Warner Brothers have gone, Marvel, they've done it. Marvel have done it. Let's just skip to that. Skip to the end.
Yeah, we've got one of them.
Forget to do all the building. The reason that Avengers is good is because they spent the time building the characters so you care.
And bear in mind, that was a gamble. When that film came out, everyone was watching to be like, is this going to work? We had no idea. It could have been an absolute shambles. It could have been awful. But thankfully it wasn't. And, now we're here. And that's the other thing about these movies, right, is the Snyder Bros, I think, seem to go into the DCU camp as well and are very kind of like, oh, you're just an MCU fanboy. Oh, you're not smart enough for the Warner Brothers. No, the DCU movies are bad, most of them. Listen, Marvel, it doesn't always get it right. There are some stinkers in the MCU.
Yeah.
But as fans, I think they were more accepting of that. And I think, I'm sure you guys feel the same way. When I went into this movie again, I wasn't going in thinking like, I don't like DC, I like Marvel. I was just thinking, I like superheroes. I love Batman. I love Superman.
I love
Absolutely.
Batman,
Put them on the big screen. Let's go. And I was crushed by how terrible this movie was.
I love the Richard Donner Supermans.
Yeah,
I love
agree.
those Supermans, sounds a weird thing to say, but the Superman movies. And I even like Superman 3. No one likes Superman 3 apart from Superman 4. Superman 4 is rubbish. Yes, that's true. But I like Superman 3. And I think I'm the only person on the planet who likes Superman 3. And so this should be right up my street. But it's not.
It's not. It's just bad. And I don't want to go on forever, but
final thought, Harley. Final thought. How do you want to finish it? Would you recommend it? Will you ever go back?
Oh no, never, no. And I say to people, like, if you're curious, if for whatever reason you've avoided seeing this movie, just keep it that way. It's 2.5 hours of your life you will not get back. Perfect. And this franchise is probably going to die a death anyway, so don't worry about it.
What is a sequel that's better than you expected? So you kind of got dragged into seeing it.
Okay. I'm going to cheat and have a prequel, and you can count the sequels as well. And I know these films have come up on your show before, and that is the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the recent movies.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Not expecting those to be as good as they are. Incredible. Especially that first one. I remember, I think going to the cinema, I was intending to see Captain America. I think it was at the same time. And I think me and my buddy Will missed the screening. And we were like, oh, well, we're here now. We might as well go to the cinema. What else is on? Oh, yeah, I've heard about this Rise of the Planet of the Apes. It was quite good, actually. Andy Serkis, I like him. Yeah, all right, let's go. So went in, no expectations, don't have any affiliation with any of the previous movies. And I was just floored by how good it was. I mean, the movie makes you care about an ape.
They look good.
And they look amazing. And they only get better as the sequel films come along. And it's a trilogy of movies that I absolutely adore now. And my dad loves them as well. And again, the behind the scenes of all of that is fascinating. And as a big standout moment in the cinema as well, in that first film, I remember vividly when he first goes, no, in the cinema, everyone, it's a packed out screening, and just everyone was like, holy crap. You could feel the whole room just be like, what just happened? And it was brilliant. It was such a great moment in cinema. And they're amazing movies. And if people haven't seen them, go and check them out. They're all three, I think, are excellent.
I think you can go into them not knowing about Planet of the Apes as well.
Oh, absolutely. You don't need to know anything. Yeah. I mean, technically, they're all three are prequels, right?
Yeah.
So
or reboots? Were you saying reboots?
Yeah, kind of reboots.
Could be. I mean, they're both. They don't ignore, do they?
No, because they take place before, don't they? The events of Planet of the Apes. So it's
okay.
So
well,
don't need anything
before and after.
Yeah.
So they're sort of midquels, I guess. Because obviously he takes off from Earth.
Yeah, that's
Planet of
right.
the Apes, he takes off from Earth when Earth is normal. And then, some sort of timey, vortexy thing happens. And then he crash lands back on the Planet of the Apes, which you don't know is Earth. I'm sorry, I'm spoiling a 50-year-old movie?
I do wonder.
Son of a bitch! Isn't that what's saying? Classic.
It's like,
Charlton Heston.
damn you!
Yeah.
Damn you all to hell!
Again, you probably know it from The Simpsons, guys.
It was Earth after all. You finally made a monkey. I could do this all day.
What is your dream sequel?
Okay, so I had to think a lot about this one because I'm quite happy with most films just being standalone. If they work, they work. It's cool. And then one that kind of just leapt out to me for some reason was School of Rock. I love this movie. It's just one of my all-time favorites. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely love it. It's brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Warm hug.
Yeah.
I love Jack Black. I think this is probably when he
kids
dies.
are
This
great.
is the one they're going to show clips of.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's the perfect vehicle for him, isn't it? This movie, it's fun, it's silly, it's lighthearted, and it taps into my other great love in pop culture, which is music. Anyone who's met me for more than 10 seconds will know that I play the guitar, and that's a huge part of my life. And it was around this age when this film came out that I was learning, and I was getting into rock and metal, and so this was like tailor-made for me when it came out as a kid, and I loved it. And the more I go back to it, the more I just love it, because as you say, Dave, it's just a warm hug, just a nice movie.
It is.
So in terms of following it up, I had to think
Where
about
would you
this.
go? Yeah.
I think I'd want to keep it in the same sort of vein of the previous movie, in that when you watch the first film, it's really low stakes. It's a really simple film. It's essentially the story of a washed-up rock star, in air quotes, who wants to actually become a rock star. And of course, he learns along the way that you don't need to be. And the movie ends with what I think is one of the best end credits of any film ever, where they're just jamming out to, Long Way to the Top by AC/DC, and it's great. And, Jack Black's Dewey Finn and Mike White's Ned Schneebly are teaching music, and they're just, they've got that light, they've got that back in them again. Yeah. I'd want to pick up.
I love Ned Schneebly.
Oh, he's
the best
so
name.
good. I mean, it's great, isn't it? I mean, Mike White's writing on this is fantastic. And so for a sequel, I think I just want to keep it low stakes again. In a sort of elevator pitch, it would essentially be a get the band back together kind of story. That's what I'd want to do. So I think you'd pick up with Dewey and Ned, have them essentially in the same kind of place as where you left off. Like, they're teaching music, they're having a great time. They're fine, they're stable. I don't want Dewey to go backwards and suddenly want to become a rock star again. Like, no, just leave him where he is. He's happy. But I also think what I would then do is tap into the YouTube community of guitar players. So for anyone who doesn't know, the YouTube community for guitar players is huge. It's absolutely massive. And I feel like Dewey Finn as a character would fit really nicely in that world. Like, he's kind of out there. He's Jack Black, he's full of energy and fun. And, you can see him doing that kind of thing. And so I thought, well, why not have him, teaching music, doing his YouTube channel, and then maybe one day someone finds out and goes, oh, is this you? And like sends him a video of him playing the song Teacher's Pet with all the kids on stage.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, sweet. And then asks if he can use it, puts it on his channel. It gets some traction, people see it and go, oh, this is really cute. I love this. It goes a little bit viral. And then from there, like, one of the kids could maybe see it later on, like, they're all adults now, and he just leaves a comment. It's like, oh, that was fun. Hope you're doing all right. And just from there, it gives him the impetus to think, oh, I should reach out to these people. And I was thinking maybe he could reach out to Zach, the guitar player, because something that happens in the original film with that character is, he kind of rallies against his parents a little bit because he wants to play music, and his parents are sending him to a prep school, for crying out loud. Like, they clearly want him to be well off, and music's just a hobby. And I think pull on that thread, have him meet up and sort of ask how he's getting on, and be like, oh, you still playing music? He could be like, oh, not really. I haven't touched it in 10 years and I'm in some boring corporate job, but it is what it is. And maybe that gives him the impetus then, Dewey Finn's character, to be like, yeah, I wonder how the others are doing, and just have him go around and sort of catch up with all of them again and want to bring them back together. And again, it's not about you becoming a rock star and like, oh, I'm going to make you all rich and famous. It's just, you've all lost your way a little bit with creativity. You've forgotten what it means to enjoy that. Like. We all do, right? And so that's what I mean. It's tapping into that side of the story and have them just get together again and just play to really what the original film's all about. Put on one great rock show. and just have it be about that. And from there, you know, you could give all the little characters little threads. Because in the movie, it's something that stands out to me every time I rewatch it is most of these kids get like a mini arc. You know, they get like a little thing to overcome, whether it's self-confidence, body image issues come up in this movie. You know, there's stuff about identity and parents, and it does the whole don't do drugs kids in this movie, but well, you know, there's all of that stuff you can talk about, and you can bring that into this movie and sort of just mature it up a little bit for people that will now all be adults.
Yeah.
Would you keep Richard Linklater as the director? This is the most un-Richard Linklater film.
Yeah,
It really is, but I feel
It
like
surprises me every time. I'm like, oh fuck, this is the guy that does Sunset films and
I know.
Dazed and Confused and Boyhood. It's really random that this is set in his.
if he'd be up for it, I think it would be nice to have that touch. And again, like I think Mike White should team up with Jack Black and write it, and because they know the characters, they know the feel.
Yeah.
And it would just be simple and have that same tone. Absolutely.
Have you seen a movie called Still Crazy?
No.
There's a British movie called Still Crazy, and it's basically about getting a band back together. Getting an old 70s rock band back together.
The cast is awesome, by the way.
The cast is incredible. It's got Bill Nighy, Timothy Spall,
Billy
Jimmy
Connolly.
Nail.
Wow. I need to look this up.
It's a really good, it's a really
funny.
good light movie. But
Cool.
just when you described about getting the band back together, it sounds really kind of like a similar kind of thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can recast as well, because I mean, most of these kids didn't really do anything after this. Like, I think a lot of them shied away from wanting to be actors. And
Sadly, the drummer's dead. Yeah.
I was going to say that's the only one I wouldn't recast. So you're absolutely right. Let me find
played
him.
Freddie,
Freddie
what's his
Jones, Kevin Alexander Clark. Yeah, he sadly passed away, as you say. I think it was a hit and run from what I read, which is just heartbreaking. But
Yeah.
and I think you could dedicate the movie to him absolutely. And I think for that you can address that in the film as well. You can have it as he's trying to get them back, and it's like, oh, where's Freddie? And they can be like, well, you haven't heard, and have him address that loss. And so for a drummer, maybe you could, I don't know, cast somebody who is a drummer and have them sort of say, oh yeah, he taught me lessons. You know,
Dave Grohl.
Oh my goodness, yeah. But like, seriously, you could actually have, find out that he's the one that kept the dream alive, who was teaching music and was out there gigging and sort of pay tribute to him in that way. I think would be really sweet.
Have you seen, because they have done a few little reunions gigs to charity on YouTube, and they still look like they're having the best time
They are,
on
and
stage when they're all together.
If you want to bring some of them back and cameo in it, and I think would be really sweet. And you could tap in as well to like I said earlier, the YouTube community is huge. You could put on a show and just have it as like a online festival that these guys put them together. And I'm sure if you reached out to that community and said like, hey, do you want to be in a School of Rock sequel? Like vast majority would be like, yeah, all right, I'll cameo. And and again, sort of in the tone of the previous movie, just it's light, it's fun. It's not about anyone becoming rich and famous or anything like that. It's just about people getting together, being creative, and just remembering to enjoy that side of life.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank
Would
you.
you have Joan Cusack? Would you bring her back in a
Absolutely,
cameo role?
yeah, totally.
I love her in the original.
Totally. Again, like some of them bring them back. Sarah Silverman, I think, is hilarious. Like,
Oh, yeah, forgot that.
yeah, like it's a good cast. So again, you could bring all these people back if they wanted to do it, and have them cameo, have them have a role. If you think it would work, absolutely.
And would you put that now, or would it a few years ago, or
I'd do it now.
future?
I think you could do it present day, absolutely. I mean, even I suppose I haven't thought about this, but I guess off the back of the pandemic, gigs are back and people are wanting to be out. Could be even a bit more of an impetus to say like, let's put on a show. Let's do something about this, and you could just have it. Yeah, you could have that feed into it, I guess.
Lovely. Have you ever seen the stage musical?
No, I've watched a couple of the performances on YouTube and like, look like they're having fun. I think
The guy does mimics Jack Black quite well, the guys from the UK.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and the kids could all play, and I was like, why am I not that good at any instrument?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sat here with 5 guitars next to me, and I must admit, every time I watch little Zach shred away on stage, I'm like, I need to practice more.
I was reading the goof pages today, which is the most pathetic thing you've ever read on IMDb.
Oh, I love it.
At this point, they're not holding the guitar, but the music is still playing. At this point, the drums are going, but Freddie's clearly sitting there. I was like, come on, mate. Just kids playing music, it's great.
I will say as well, like for commentaries on DVDs, I think the first one has one of the best commentaries I've ever listened to, because
Who is it?
It's with all the kids. as cast.
Oh, right.
It's so sweet hearing them talk about what it was like to film it and like how much they enjoyed it. And like I said, most of them were not actors. They were brought on just because they could play instruments. And
Yeah.
it's really cool listening to them all talk about that and, all the different artists that they were emulating and stuff like that. It was, it's really cool. It's a really fun listen.
It really came out of nowhere as well, School of Rock. I remember it came out, I think we were at uni, Rich, and it was like, nothing was really known about it. Like, Jack Black wasn't a massive name then.
No.
It was reasonable, I think. It wasn't huge. Tenacious D hadn't come along or anything like that at that point, had they?
Well, we had Tribute by then.
Had we?
I was going to say, I think they had their first album out by that
Definitely had
point.
Tribute.
Oh, no, we had. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Tribute was before uni, wasn't it? So you're probably a bit bigger than I was thinking. But
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, he was, I think, at that time, kind of a lesser known entity, but this film just works perfectly for him as a vehicle. It's just... Yeah, I honestly think it's his best role. I think I agree with you guys. Like, should the day ever come where he passes, that that would be on the memorial tributes everywhere. I think.
Just be a clip of him just rocking out in School of Rock.
Absolutely.
Or High Fidelity, when he starts singing High Fidelity, you already think he's going to be a bad singer. That's the first time I saw Jack Black.
Okay.
Oh my God! And then Marvin Gaye rocks up and he's like, he's fucking brilliant. And that's. And then since then, you keep your eye on Jack Black, like back in 2000 or whatever it was. 2001? Anyway, love that film as well. I think he's a genius. He makes me laugh incredibly hard.
Yeah, and I feel like if you approached him with a good script and a simple idea like this and said like, hey, do you want to do it?
Well,
I'm sure
I think we can.
Yeah,
sure we
yeah.
can just...
Why not? Let's just pitch it.
Jack
DM it.
Black, if you're listening.
Those were Harley Mumford's Unequal Sequels. What a lovely podcast. I really enjoyed that.
Always love chatting to Harley. Love his podcast. He's one of the good ones out in that podcasting world.
Yeah, he
that
is.
we've met, and we've trying to get him on the podcast for a while. We're like, yeah, you can come on. We can. I reckon you've got some strong opinions. And boy, did he have some strong opinions.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Some good picks, though, I think. Some really good choices. So, yeah, some really good choices there.
Best of was Blade Runner 2049, which is art. It's beautiful. I love it.
You wholeheartedly agree. You think it's better than the original?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Not even by a little bit, by quite a step, quite a distance.
You're wrong, but fair enough.
I respect everyone's decision and choices, but it's just a wonderful film. It's just everything that cinema should be.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Not just from the acting, but from the art design, the costumes, the visual effects, the storytelling, the music. It's just otherworldly. It's better than anything pretty much there is been before or ever be again. I love it. I love it. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant film. And thank you for Harley for picking it.
Yeah, come crashing down from that to his worst.
Whoa. I think that is the longest rant we've had about a worst sequel. I'm not going to go on the record for that, but editing it, I thought, wow, this is... Harley's been keeping this in for a while, and we could have spoken for so much longer about that film. There's so much, I don't want to say wrong with it, but there's so many talking points.
Yeah, true.
That it could have got out of control, and taming him and keeping him under control was my job in that. And you didn't help.
Well, it's rubbish, isn't it?
It is truly awful.
And then back up again to his dream sequel.
Yeah.
Which,
like I said, warm hug of a film, really. School of Rock.
And cracking ideas for a sequel too. Like, I'd like to see that come back.
A reunion, getting the band back together always works, doesn't it? That's right in my wheelhouse, my how to really get me to be interested in stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
That will get me my juices flowing.
Lovely. For that. Yeah. And if you felt like you got a warm hug from this podcast and it's the first time you've listened, maybe go back and listen to some of our other episodes with some of our other guests. Maybe you're a big Harley fan, which I'm sure there's loads of people out there who are big fans of Fandomentals podcast, which is amazing. But yeah, go back and listen to some of our other episodes with some of our other guests, and even some of our extra episodes where we get really upset about Jurassic World Dominion, for example. You can, while you're doing that, if you like what you hear, click the little subscribe button and we'll drop into your inbox every week at least and sometimes twice a week when we're doing our seasons. But yeah, if you want to send us a message about something you've listened to on the podcast that you like, you want to tell us we're wrong about something, or you want to stick up for some of the bad movies we mentioned, then contact us on Twitter. We are at Unequal Sequel, or Instagram, also at Unequal Sequel, or you can send us an email, unequalsequel@hotmail.com. If whilst you're there doing the subscribing, you fancy giving us a little like, then please do that. Give us a little heart, give us a 5-star review. We do love reading the little reviews. They are wonderful.
I just want to say, go listen to Harley's podcast, the Fandomentals podcast. Each episode is different. Someone picks a special subject that they love and they talk about. It's really interesting, really different, really full of passionate people, really interesting. We've been on it. We've talked about podcasting.
We did, yeah. It was very meta.
It was.
As the kids would say.
I just also got to say thank you for listening. If you have listened or plan to listen or download, thank you for that. I've got nothing else to say. Have you got anything else to say, Rich?
No, that's me.
Okay, so it is a arrivederci from me.
Nice.
And a goodbye from him.
Bye!
You guys have a absolutely rocking week, okay? Bye.